Tom. Welcome to WPFW.
Hey, Rusty. Thank you so much for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So I was just in awe of what you did to accompany a silent film, which, it's been a trend in live music to accompany these old films that are really fascinating. But what you did was amazing. So tell us about what you're going to be doing with it.
Well, thank you. It's interesting that my concept for accompanying film, and I have about 5 or 6 in repertoire, is that I take the film as though it is the form of a jazz piece, and there are certain segments that I want to make sure that I am hitting in sync, and then it leaves a lot of room for improvisation in between. So unlike a lot of the theater things that I've done in the past, where everything is quite orchestrated and is pretty much always the same from night to night, this allows me a lot of freedom, and I find it a great area of expression for me. I'm also taking some avant-garde Dadaist films by Hans Richter, Man Ray, and others, and I'm interpreting them, and sometimes showing that in galleries. So I'm very interested in multimedia presentations with my music, using the jazz aesthetic combined with my world music interest.
And how did you develop this world concept and acquire all these instruments that you've put your hands on, that you indeed put your hands on when you demonstrate them?
Yeah, well, like so much that happens in my life and my career, largely through happenstance and not planning. But I was a student of various world percussion over past 20 years or so, and I'd say within the past 10 years or approximately, I started touring for the U.S. Department of State as a cultural envoy. So the main area that I've gone to has been the Middle East. So I've been to Bahrain a couple of times, Saudi Arabia, the West Bank, Israel, Oman, all pretty much all over there, and then also to traveling to New Zealand, and I was recently in China. So in each of these locations that I go, I collaborate with indigenous master musicians. And my goal is to share with them, my Western American jazz aesthetic, and then to absorb as much of their culture as I can, and bring back to share with the audiences here.
And you acquire instruments with your travels. It's amazing. How many do you keep count? How many percussive instruments you have?
It would be in the hundreds.
Oh.
No, I don't keep track.
I
think my wife might keep track.
Right. Okay. Yes, I have that issue with CDs.
I can only imagine.
So it's my wife's a fiber artist, and she's always purchasing fabric to make her quilts, but she has everything color coordinated. I'm finally getting, with my daughter's help, some organization with the chaotic collection that
it's funny, isn't it? As we keep celebrating birthdays and as we become purveyors of our interest and our passions, we acquire stuff.
Right. Absolutely.
And my house is full of drum stuff.
Sure. Well, my wife acquires sewing machines, so it's a struggle in terms of space with the old house that we're in. But it's wonderful. She just had a show at the Hill Center with her quilts that was very well received.
Amazing. Cool.
So that's really
Congratulations.
Nice. Thanks. So tell us about how people can. Yeah, I know it's way out there, Castleton.
For those of the listeners who are not familiar, Castleton was founded by the maestro Loren Mazel and his wife Dietlinde. And I'm in my second year now as an artist in residence. So I'm doing a fair amount of teaching residencies. I just did a teaching residency of rhythm workshops for opera singers a little while ago, and I've done a variety of different kinds of concerts. And in May, it's going to be the opening of a sound garden where we've acquired gongs from around the world and tuned chimes and all kinds of things. But on February the 11th, I'm going to be performing a couple of American physical comedy films, one by Charlie Chaplin, The Immigrant, and the other by Buster Keaton, Sherlock Jr. So I have a bunch of other films in repertoire, but they're mostly German expressionistic films like The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, Nosferatu, Metropolis, The Adventures of Prince Ahmed, and others. But I've been reluctant to take on some of the American films from that era because there are social issues that I'm just was not comfortable with. So I was very careful in picking these, and the Charlie Chaplin, The Immigrant, actually is incredibly timely. So I feel like I'm kind of coming back home in some ways because the movements are very much in alignment with percussion. In fact, I think Charlie Chaplin's movements in general are extremely percussive, just the way that he moves. So, from my theater work, I'm used to to playing with dancers, and I find this a very natural progression.
Now, The Modern Times was a silent film done during the sound era, well into it. I understand it had a music track to it. Did you reference that at all?
Yeah, so that opens another dialogue. It was a silent movie, and there was some speaking in it, but those people who might be familiar with it would know that the speaking is always coming from an intercom or a telephone or a radio or something like that. So because they didn't have the sync in place to have the sound in sync with the voice. So interestingly enough, I had prepared this film. I had edited it down just for my own selfish purposes, and the Chaplin estate in Paris found out that I was doing this, and the people that represent them have a stipulation that those pieces were, Charlie Chaplin was a brilliant musician. I know. In addition to everything else he did.
Composed smile.
Yeah, exactly right. So there was a stipulation that I did not know about that says that whenever his films are to be shown, it must be shown with his music. So you can only imagine that's why I was negligent in getting you more CDs because this was dropped on me on Monday.
Oh no!
So during that time, I kind of developed a friendship with the person that was representing the Chaplin Foundation, who, as it turns out, was an amateur drummer who knew a little bit about me. So he referenced me onto getting very high quality Blu-ray copies of a bunch of the previous Chaplin films where he did not do the music, and there's a lot of them.
Oh, right, okay.
So it was actually kind of a blessing in disguise.
Right. Oh, I see. Fascinating. Oh, absolutely. Why you're doing these other films, I understand now. Well, I thought Modern Times was brilliant the way you handled it. So,
well, I appreciate it, and I plan to do. I think the Immigrant is also is really interesting too, and I'll probably do that at UDC coming up sometime for a lecture recital.
Good.
But the another one that's kind of fun. It has no social justification at all. Is The Adventure? It's just slapstick comedy.
Absolutely. Okay. So again, how do people get tickets for this performance?
Well, if you go to Castleton.org, you'll be directed to the performances. I will say that fortunately the tickets are selling quickly.
Good.
There are some great seats left. The orchestra is almost sold out. There are some great, actually, when I go there to see other people, I like to sit up in the balcony. And there are some great, to see the hand action and stuff. And there are some great seats still in the balcony. So I'd love to see people. There's going to be a nice reception after the program with some food and maybe some drink. And I'll give this hint to those night owls who are staying. If they go on to the site, they can go ahead and order the student tickets, and they get a steep discount, and just say that Tom Teasley said it would be okay.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited to talk to you about this after watching the performance you gave at UDC. I always enjoy your lecture demonstrations, but the film was really awesome for me, and I'm looking forward for you to do it again. And I have an older recording queued up, Globalization, that you did solo drums on. Tell us about the piece we're going to hear.
Yeah, so Seven Candlesticks is, that was a long time ago, maybe 20 years ago when I was only 15.
Right.
And I'm overdubbing a lot of instruments. I can't even quite remember, but it's drum set, darbuka, vibraphone, and a variety of other things. But it was during a time when I was very interested in the teachings of the great yogi Yogananda Paramahansa, and he refers to the seven chakras as being the seven candlesticks. So
okay, so we'll hear it now, and thanks again for calling in tonight, and I'll see you around campus.
Okay, brother.